You want a dream team of all-star A players. Yet when you look at the team you have today, it kind of feels like herding cats. You have to run around, tell everybody what to do, follow up with them 3 times to make sure that it actually gets done. When it does get done, it's not to your standards, and then you have to jump in and redo it anyway. Does this sound familiar? The last thing you ever want to be is a micromanager. And yet it feels like you have to be just to make sure that the work gets done. In this video, I am going to show you how to break that cycle and how to up-level your team so that they can start delivering highest levels of performance and do so without any micromanagement required from you. So first off, we need to talk about what is micromanagement and why does it happen? Why do we as leaders with the best of intentions end up micromanaging when we really don't want to? What it ultimately comes down to is 2 things: trust versus control. At the end of the day, we end up micromanaging because our team has not proven to us that we can trust them to get all of the work done, do it on time, do it correctly, and do it without us needing to step in and make sure it's right. Maybe you've tried that in the past where you delegated and then they messed something up, or it didn't come back correctly, or they missed a deadline. Maybe you just don't trust that your team is going to do the work as well as you would do it, or they're going to do it correctly. When we lack trust, we compensate for that with control. I don't trust that you can get this done, so I'm going to step in and make sure that you get this done. I don't trust that you know what to do or what to prioritize, so I'm going to step into control and just tell you what you need to do and what to prioritize, right? Where we lack trust, we compensate with control. And before you say, no, Jhana, that's not me. I love my team. I trust my team. I serve my team. Let me just break down how trust and control can be kind of sneaky, because this is how it showed up for me, where I didn't want to control my team, but I wanted to serve my team. I wanted to make sure that my team had everything that they needed, that their problems were taken care of. If they had a question for me, I wanted to answer that question. I really wanted to support and serve my team and make their lives and their jobs as easy and successful as possible. That is also control. Fundamentally, I lacked trust that when a problem came up, my team could handle it themselves. With that, when they had a question, they could figure it out. I lacked trust in my team's ability to level up and perform at a higher level without my support. So I only share that to say that control doesn't come from a negative place. We genuinely want to help our team. We genuinely want to serve them. But the underlying root is still the same, which is that if a client fire explodes, we don't trust them to handle it. That if they have a question, we don't trust them to be able to figure it out themselves. And it is always faster, easier, and more simple for us to just jump in, do it for them, take care of it, and move the company forward. So if we want to cure ourselves of micromanagement, we need to work on these 2 things. We need to establish and build trust, and we need to shift away from control. Let's start with the control side. There's this absolutely brilliant leadership concept from Netflix, and they call it context versus control. Right? So we've already established what control leadership looks like. That's you jumping in, telling everybody what to do, making sure that they've done it, following up with them 100 times. That's control. What is context? What does context-based leadership look like? Context-based leadership means if I have done my job as a founder of putting the right people in the right seats, like I really believe that, I have the right, best people in every single seat. And if you don't have that, I've got other videos on that. But let's just assume for a moment that you do, right? We've got the right people in the right seats. Then, as a leader, all I need to do is provide them with context. I need to give them all of the information, all the data, all the strategy, the priorities. Where are we going? How do we want to get there? How does your role contribute to that? What are the things that you need to keep in mind about our business, how we run, how this process flows, who our clients are, right? It's a lot. But it's all the context. It's everything around the role that they need to know in order to be successful. If I have put the right person in the right seat and given them all of the context, then I shouldn't need to control them. Because if there's a problem, they've got all the context to solve it. If there's a question, they've got all the context to figure out the answer. If there's a key decision that needs to be made, why wouldn't they make the right decision, the decision that I would make if I was in their role? So as a leader, we get to shift away from control and replace it with context. Tactically, what does that look like? Well, it starts all the way at the beginning with hiring, right? Right people in the right seats. We have to know how to do that. Then it goes into onboarding, where if we're training our team, we are training them in the context. So we aren't just saying, here's the SOP, here's the step-by-step, follow this exactly, right? That's control. We're saying, here's the best process that we have figured out so far. Here's why this process exists. Here's what the desired outcome is. Here's how we measure success. And here's what's important to achieve. Context. And this gets to the second thing we're going to talk about, which is ownership. Now, this SOP is yours. You now own this process. You have all the context that you need around how and why it works. You take this, you make it better. So we have now not only guaranteed that that SOP is going to get followed, get done, and get done correctly, but we have actually transferred ownership to our team to take that SOP, make it their own, and now take ownership for the problems that may arise, for the innovations and improvements that need to be made, for the decisions that have to be made around this process. We have empowered them with everything they need to take that ball and run with it and do it without us having to tell them what to do, force them to do it, follow up with them to make sure that they're doing it. We have taken context and ownership, and we have used that to replace control. I really quickly want to break down why. Why is it worth your time to figure out how to do this and go through all of this work? Because in the short term, isn't it faster and easier for us to just control, for us to just tell our team what to do? They're going to do what we tell them. We'll make sure it's right, so it's going to be right every time. Like, why is it worth it for me to go through all this extra effort to like pause and offer them context and to coach them through it? Seems like a pain in the ass, doesn't it? Here's why. Micromanagement is fundamentally expensive. It costs you money. It costs you profit in exactly two ways. The first way is that A players hate being micromanaged and they will actually leave. So if you insist on showing up as a micromanager, your team churn is going to be higher and you're going to attract and manage B and C players because A players literally just won't put up with it. We actually had a client who was on the brink of losing half of their team when we started working with her. This founder, through her best intentions, was micromanaging the hell out of her team. And by the time we stepped in and placed a second in command operator who knew how to lead through autonomy and context, 3 to 4 of her team members told us that if we hadn't placed that operator, they were about to quit. If those team members had left, her entire business would have combusted. So the cost of micromanagement can be extreme. Sometimes it can cost you your entire business because your top performing people literally just won't stick around. And the revolving door of team members will stall you out, stagnate your growth, or in worst case scenarios, absolutely combust your business. Expensive. The other way that micromanagement is expensive is with your time. If you are spending 10, 15, 20 hours a week having to closely manage your team, then that's 10 to 20 hours a week that you don't get to spend on sales and marketing and strategic relationships and the things that will actually move the needle and take your business to the next level. How much faster could you grow? How much more revenue could you stack in even the next 12 months with an extra 10 hours a week? 6 figures? 7 figures? That is very real revenue. That is very real growth that could have been generated, but doesn't get to be, because your time is buried in the weeds micromanaging your team. So the reality is that while it's hard to learn how to relinquish control, while it takes longer, while it's frustrating, while it's a whole new set of skills that you have to learn, the ROI on that is insane because now you get to attract better people, keep them longer, and free up your time so you can focus on what's most important when it comes to growing your business. At the end of the day, leadership is not just like a nice to have thing because don't we all want to work for great leaders? It has very real implications for your bottom line. It doesn't just affect revenue, it actually affects your profit. And the good news is that by leveling up as a leader, which is free, it costs you nothing other than the time you're going to invest to watch the rest of this video. For the cost of a couple of minutes and leveling up as a leader, you get to produce a higher level of performance from your team, lower team churn, top performing people, and more freed up time to generate growth. And you get all of that for free, which means that you're not just driving revenue, you are driving profit. Leadership is what we call a hidden profit center. It is profit hiding in plain sight inside of your business. And all that's needed is for you to learn how and where to find it and reclaim it so you can take it off the table. There are actually 6 hidden profit centers inside of your business. And so what we did is we created a tool that we call the Hidden Profit Finder. It's 10 minutes or less, and it will actually go in and help you diagnose across these 6 hidden profit centers. Where is profit right now leaking out of your business? And what can you do tomorrow for free to start optimizing that part of your business, grab that profit off the table and put it in your pocket? So if you want some free profit, go ahead, grab the Hidden Profit Finder. The link is in the description. It is my gift from me to you to support you in leveling up as a leader and leveling up your business. So go check that out and get really excited because it's going to tell you all the money that you're going to make if we master context and the second piece we talked about, ownership. So this is where that second side of the coin, the trust piece, comes in. How do we trust our team? How do we build trust with our team? That comes down to ownership. Ownership very simply means who is ultimately responsible for that outcome in the business. So for client success managers, do they fundamentally own the result of client retention, or do you? And now you're gonna tell me, of course they own it, Jhana. It's their job. Great. Now let me ask you, when a client fire explodes inside of your business, who handles it? If our team truly and genuinely owns their outcomes, then what that means is they not only own the tasks, right? The hopping on with clients and the sending client emails and answering client FAQs, they own the result. They own the client fire that explodes. They own the client question that they don't know how to answer. They own the decision around whether to give that client a refund or not. Complete and full ownership doesn't mean owning a task list. It means owning a result and everything that goes into producing that result within the business. If instead, when a client fire explodes, we step in, we handle it, we take care of it, then what we are teaching our team, not with our words, but with our actions, is fundamentally, you don't own this because I don't trust you to own it. Now that's harsh. You would never say that, but that is what your actions are communicating. I don't trust you to take care of this client fire, so I'm going to handle it. This is not your fire, it's mine. So trust and ownership go hand in hand. If we want to trust our team, we have to answer the question, trust them to do what? What do they own within the business? And do I trust them to achieve that outcome? Which means that when it gets hard, when fires explode, when problems come up, when questions come up, do I trust them to own it? So a couple of things are needed for our team to be set up for success to take full and complete ownership for their roles. The first thing that they need is a clear definition of what outcomes they own. What is their job? What is their outcome? For a client success manager, it's not hopping on client calls. It's 90% client retention month over month. It's upselling clients at a minimum of 25% conversion rate, right? What are the measurable, specific outcomes that we can put in front of our team so that they understand? Do whatever you gotta do. Solve whatever problems, answer whatever questions, do whatever tasks are required to achieve this outcome. This is what success looks like in your role, and here is how we measure it. Your team cannot take full and complete ownership if they don't know what it is they are owning. Our job is to provide that for them, is to give them clarity around what is their role, what is their responsibility, what is their scope of ownership within the business. They cannot figure that out for themselves. We need to define it and then transfer ownership to them. So I gave you that example of when I onboard somebody and I'm showing them the SOPs. Those aren't my SOPs. Those are now their SOPs. When I'm showing them tasks and how to do those tasks, those aren't my tasks. Those are their tasks. When I'm showing them how to put out a client fire and a client escalation, that's not my job. That's not my fire. That's their fire. So ownership crops up in 1,000 little ways across the day-to-day. So as a leader, I want you to turn on your filter and ask yourself the question, in how I'm answering this question or training this person up or managing them, is the ownership with them, or am I unintentionally with my actions stepping in and taking ownership away? And this will never be harder than when your team makes a mistake. Because again, what is ownership? Ownership is everything required to achieve these outcomes, which means I not only own my tasks, my decisions, my questions, I own my failures, I own my mistakes, I own my learning opportunities. And as a leader, that is so hard because mistakes and failures and learning opportunities cost us money. That client success manager hopped on to that client escalation call, didn't save them, the client left, and that costs you money. And before, I could have just stepped in, handled it, and then it wouldn't have cost me money. So it is the hardest thing ever to maintain and keep ownership with them when things go wrong. But that is also the most critical moment, the biggest opportunity that you have to establish ownership and trust. There's this other brilliant leadership book called The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle, where he examines the world's highest performing teams across the board. And when he looks at the common characteristics of the world's best teams, the single number one highest common trait is something called psychological safety. Does that team feel psychologically safe? Psychologically safe to voice ideas, to express dissent, to be vulnerable, to be unsure, to make mistakes. If you want the highest levels of performance out of your team, if you want to show your team that you fundamentally trust them, then your team needs to feel safe to make mistakes. They need to feel safe to fail, knowing that that failure will cost you money, and to get up, to learn from it, and to try again. So the mistakes are where your leadership is going to be tested. And if a big mistake happens and it costs you a ton of money and you get really angry and you jump into Slack and you start yelling at them and you pull them onto a call and you berate them or you grab it back and I'm gonna fix it. Again, with the best of intentions, what you are communicating with your actions is I don't trust you and you do not own this mistake. Instead, here's what I would coach you to do the next time your team makes a mistake. Step number one, you say, thank you for telling me, and genuinely mean it, because they didn't have to tell you. They could have swept it under the rug, but they did it. They did the really scary thing, and they came to their boss and they said, boss, I made a mistake. Thank you for telling me. That goes a huge way to establishing psychological safety. Thank you for telling me. Step number two, we keep ownership with them. Tell me what you are going to do to solve this. What is your game plan to fix this, right? So instead of going in and grabbing that away from them, we are keeping the ownership with them. Thank you for telling me. What's your plan? Step number three is, what have you learned from this? So this is where we turn mistakes into growth opportunities. If every single time our team makes a mistake or a failure, but they learn so much from it that that mistake never happens again, then that mistake has been extremely ROI positive. Because yeah, we lost a client, but now down the road, we're going to be able to save 3, 5, 10 more clients because we learned in this mistake what to do about it. So step number three is where you turn failure into an accelerant inside of your business and an opportunity for your team to always be leveling up. Thank you for telling me. What are you going to do about this? What have you learned? And what do you need from me? So to be very clear, not micromanaging is not the same thing as just flying away, right? I'm not a micromanager, but that doesn't mean that I disappear away from Slack or I don't have meetings with my team anymore. All it means is that I have shifted my perspective away from being a player on the field to a coach on the sidelines. Instead of that ball getting dropped and me jumping onto the field and handling it, I stay on the sidelines. Ownership stays with them. And instead, I am simply asking as a coach, why did this happen? What did you learn from it? And what do you need from me as your coach to support you in your growth, your level up, and your fixing it? So if you really are serious about shifting away from control and towards trust, lead with context, lead with ownership. And what you will very quickly see is your team will start to transform. Your team will start to come up with solutions to their own problems. Start answering their own questions. Start making their own decisions. Start getting resourceful. Start getting innovative, creative. You're going to see them get more bought in, more excited, more engaged. You're going to see a higher level of performance than you ever knew was possible. And I can promise you that because that is exactly what I saw in my own team when I went through this leadership level up. It is exactly what I see in the hundreds of teams that we work with when we support our clients in this level up. It is profound, but it requires a totally different approach and set of skills when it comes to how we show up as leaders. So now you know how to boost performance without micromanagement, how to oftentimes double the output from your team with fewer hours invested from you, which now gives you the opportunity to take all of that time and reinvest it into what truly moves the needle on your business. Now, there is so much more that goes into not just not micromanaging, but building a true self-managing team. I cover all of that in my next video. You can grab it right over here. And I am so excited to continue to support you and your level up as a leader building a high-performance A-player team. I will see you over there.